faint-hearted, and these guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I did Martin. Student army came through in the weekend, and there is no little. We all spent a bit of time just picking out the little pines, which is inevitable. But so they've been through and they've cleared the site. So the student army, thank you to whoever, I don't know who that was, but thank you very much to those guys, if any of them are listening.
The consumer VCB had, as far as I'm concerned, is when you stand and look up at our hills behind us, that they are getting greener every day. And the problem is that's on private land, and we need to start, because our environment is being
Surface of the moon.
pine-covered hills, not green with pine trees.
Yes, anyway, I'll
Green Hill.
Yeah.
Green Hill.
Charlie would like, it could be Canada.
We're not Canada.
Well, 90,000 hectares of land has been taken over by wilding ponds a year now,
Yeah.
and they reckon the next 5 6 years, if they don't do it, you will be like Canada.
We have neighbours just done some work, had some funding for a price coming in, and the $50,000 they got went about a couple of hectares, 20,000.
Oh, it's expensive.
So I wouldn't underestimate how much our
Absolutely.
natural environments will change in the next 15 years.
It's our ecosystems, it's the access to
Unless
the
we get
water
to
they're
figure out
uptaking.
what we-
Yeah.
how we-
So what are you proposing, that we do a CCO and target south, and there's ones in the Waddington, and tell them we get to raise some funds for?
I would really, I mean, I've got quite a further out, a little bit of a radical idea, which won't be appreciated by a lot of people. I think there is the opportunity to redefine your, land rights. And instead of looking to government, which is what we say in here, instead of looking to government, which is looking to council, we transition into a phase where, and it would have to be done under all the right terms, but there's some trade-offs, and some of it might be going out and actually allowing landowners to undertake an activity to get rid of a pest, which is the pine, which may not be suitable under a normal work stream, but they can do that, which is spraying and burning. And then on the flip side, that transitional period will allow
But in that,
that
they have-
redefining land use rights.
They had that practice control burn as a test site. The
Yeah.
wilding pine.
They will
group.
come back.
Yep,
They're
yeah, are doing
absolutely-
a lot of work. I really like what's happened over at Coronet, where they cleared a whole heap. Partnership.
Oh, 100% on the replanting, but you're going to have to get rid of the problem to start with. And it could be,
that day I did the Wilding Concrete Pine Group out through the Dansies here, was quite interesting, very interesting. But you have got pockets of landowners who've got the seeding trees around their facilities and not getting taken to task. But the burning was good. And the question I proposed to DOC and Regional Council was their policy anti-burning 10 or 15 or 20 years ago probably would have killed a majority of those trees off at seedling height, and grazing would have happened. Because it was so hard to burn that you
be happy about, but the trade-off potentially in order to fix a problem could be a shorter term trade-off, but that's going into, but as far as council's concerned, council as a landowner needs to make sure that we are doing what our bit,
and the other thing.
and that's why it was really cool about the half mile.
With private land, and I'd said this to the Wilding Comfort Group, is this falls in Nicola Willis's action. Because if there's a tax incentive for weeds and pests, like there used to be a write-off and tax for weed and pests, because that country now is full of wallabies and full of deer, full of pigs, full of rabbits, full of hares, that if the private landowner could have a 5% tax relief, they would invest, and industries would pop up as a result of doing that. You'd have, like you have in Benetton Pest Group, we're going to bring, I think, a faction that does wilding pines. So if the groups that are there, like the Benetton Pest, I mean, remember in the 1980s, there was 1,000 tonne of 1080 carrots got around these hills every year. And imagine flying 1,000 tonne of carrot table carrots out around here every year, and now they're shooting around with helicopters and getting hundreds of rabbits. So when the groups can be funded, correct, they're all funded, this one's only funded by individual entities, there's no subsidy from government or anything like that. But if you had growth in a pest system that used to be there, the LRC used to have pest management, they had carrot cutters, they had all that thing. We'd be far better off. Yeah, well, we've still got ours. We pay ours here. We've still got it. And they've even bought the carrot cutters from the LRC. But if there's a side of that was wilding pines as a part of the Minnesota pest group, you pay a per hectare rate and they'll go around and clean them up. But the problem with that is only the farmers that appear to do it have got a positive balance sheet will do the weeds and pests. So the other guys left behind, as you see. But I think it's massively important. I do agree.
Sounds like a good job for simplifying local government when we
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Maybe the CTV.
Love this one. That's going a million miles in my head at moon days.
Yeah. Well, we just get it, well, I've proved it
This
with
week,
this.
so we'll figure out the home for it and some practical options for us. Are there any others like that that are unexpectedly popular to you all? The other one was, for me, was.
It should have been unexpectedly popular, Alan.
No, but that probably actually, you surmise exactly the problem is only a small number of people know the extent of the problem. And it's not until it becomes the pine tree 5 meters tall on the hillside everywhere that everyone goes, oh shit, there's a problem.
That's when it's really expensive.
Yeah. So that you actually surmised it pretty good.
Housing in a place like Ranfurly is not about affordable housing for young, it's allowing the elderly people to move into flats or apartments that are fit for purpose for them at their stage, which allows them to release the capital they've had, family capital, out to the market. There's a real shortage of, you know, with the age and stage of a lot of the people, there's a lot of single elderly people that can't go to a fit for purpose facility, active, they'll be bowling and they'll be golfing and everything, but there's not a 1 or 2 apartment for them. So I think, and I'm not going to say call it affordable housing, but it's affordable for that one to release their stock into the market. And I think, you know, our flats around here, they've been done a lot of work in their flats and people love them. But for 20 years ago, I'm not going to start a council flat, but now they really are fit for purpose. So I think it's, I keep going back to, I think we do the housing thing at the wrong end. There's the thing with stock, just let the people move into the fit for purpose housing.
And I think there are some things that appear on every list, and housing is one of them.
Yeah.
And I would quite like to see potentially a summation of this report where the boards are all aligned, to highlight that, to go back to the boards to show actually this stuff is important to you, but it's important to everybody else in this district as well. And maybe keep that feedback loop going from here back there as we approach the long-term plan. And then people, hopefully the boards can see, hey, this is a priority for us and this is maybe where we can align with others. I think that might be quite helpful. But no, I think it was a worthwhile strategy session for the boards, and I think we've actually achieved some really great outcomes from this to pursue.
I really like that it's got a whole lot of different things. It's not just your stock standard stuff that you would expect to see, like, you know, like what you're saying about having a dedicated area for food trucks. I mean, that's something that could be emulated everywhere across all of our small towns. Yeah, so I think it's really exciting.
Someone happy to move A to E that we receive, and thank you, Tracy, and seconded. Thank you, Cheryl. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Wonderful. Thanks for that work.
That community is always at the bottom of the list.
I went to you for, that's the order I appeared.
I'm just asking, you know, like it could be, maybe next report it could be, oh, Minnie Turner, then Cromwell.
Perfect. The next thing, we are going to duck out of that main agenda and into your attachment off to the side to talk about Te Hura Otago Museum. And I believe we have Ian Griffin joining us online. Hopefully.
Yes, he is. Kia ora. Can you all hear me?
Hey, I'm mute.
Oh, am I?
Afternoon, Ian.
Oh, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Screen and the council down is the open. And Dr. Ian Dr. has here to go to report on what that will be. Dr. I found out we've discovered 26 planets and my very favourite naming named one after Bruce Springsteen. So I think we're in good company today. Over to you, Dr. Griffin.
Okay. Kia ora, can you all hear me?
Still on mute.
Oh, hang on, I think it may be me.
Can you hear me?
No,
Kia ora.
not yet. We're working on it.
Okay.
We have had some technical challenges today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I
Nope.
agree that it's technical challenges, even like Wayno does.
Send a pigeon.
Take it to the remote.
Right. That's not on.
Hello,
Were
can you
you
hear me?
prepared to present via sign language, Dr. Griffin, or?
Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me? 1, 2,
Mhm.
no? I'm not on mute. Hello?
Right.
An
Hello?
interpretive dance
You've been-
about the,
Taylor, at some point you are going to have to do that, 'cause you talk about it a lot.
I do talk about it a lot. I'm still waiting for someone to take it up.
Telephone was beating down the
What do you
pig rat.
think he's
How's that?
like?
We had technology
Like those
that goes round.
No.
Right.
Bellboys, probably past. The
Hello?
telephone was invented at Shag Valley Station by Alexander Bell.
Trying to.
Who's the grandfather of the two bellboys called Otis. Johnny Bell.
We can hear him online, so it's only.
Okay, so apparently everybody else can hear him online, but we can't hear.
Maybe if we just
Can you-
get someone to Teams in and
He put the poles.
Is our owl not listening?
I was lights are wrong.
Its lights are on,
Charlie winded up.
but no one's home.
No one's-
Hello?
We don't have
Can
to push,
anybody-
there's a little button at the bottom.
You're waiting for something.
Can you hit that little button at the bottom with the light?
Oh, that's the
Hello.
mute button.
Yeah, it's not accidentally pushed or anything.
No, because it'll be lit up.
Oh, okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hear us.
Don't know, Louise is only listening to everything you say.
Well, yeah, Dr. Griffin, you might just be able to sit back and relax, and Alex might need to provide a wee bit more context about this.
How about you
In the interim.
provide some facial expressions if I get this badly wrong?
Yes.
2026 to 2027 will be their first full year of implementing their strategy or their annual plan, and it's focused on establishing momentum going forward. It looks like they've pulled out strengthening the foundations, progressing crucial capital projects, and refreshing key galleries and systems as priorities, as well as clearer measures of performance and accountability, which I'm sure is what we will see. It looks like this includes a purpose-built off-site collection store. The critical infrastructure renewal projects includes the tropical forest roof and the planetarium, which seems very apt, and stage fire protection, and there will be a gallery redevelopment. Taking a long and this other green ground that enables transformation. But on the whole, I see Dr. Griffin to come on.
Just going to turn it off and turn it back on again.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Weird that everybody else can hear though, and we can't.
Yeah.
So that's- Sorry, Wayne. Put your comments. One thing that
Hello?
I.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Another triumph for turning it off and turning it back on again.
What did you think of Alex's summation?
Oh, it's an excellent summation, much better than I could do, that's for sure. I've
No,
got a couple of things to say. If I've literally got a couple of minutes, if you've got a couple of minutes, could I say a few things and speak to the report? Would that be okay?
Of course, yep.
Okay. Well, firstly, kia ora. I'm Ian Griffin. I'm the director of Tuhura, and we're very grateful for the continued support that CODC gives us each year through the levy funding. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to explain what your contribution actually does for us, because it's very easy for a museum in Dunedin to feel distant from CODC and Central, but in fact we do have, I would argue, fairly significant impacts in the region. Firstly, your support protects something irreplaceable. We hold collections that belong to the whole of Otago, not just Dunedin. And we have natural history, cultural tauka, scientific specimens. And some of these are really globally important. Now, the reality is that parts of our infrastructure here in Dunedin are aging, and some of those collections are at risk. And that's why we're starting to invest over the next few years in better storage facilities. You've already referred to the offsite store, better fire protection, seismic resilience. These things aren't glamorous, but they're really essential to make the museum a treasure house for the future. And if we don't do these things, we're not doing our job properly. Secondly, the funding that you provide enables access, not just preservation. So we have more than 300,000 visitors a year on site, and we reach more than 30,000 people in programs and thousands of learners through our education programs. And pretty much every school in Central Otago either visits our museum or we come out to visit the schools. So we're a regional organisation and we support things across the region. We are also working hard not just to utilise public funding. And you will see in our new report, one of the measures we've given ourselves is that we need to generate more than 40% of our income ourselves. And that's through events, retail experiences and philanthropy. We've just hired a new head of philanthropy here at the museum to try and bring in some significant funding to help some of our operations. So we appreciate the council support, but we recognise it's not the only answer to our funding, but it's the platform that allows us to bring in additional funding and build something more sustainable. And finally, as you can see from the report, this is a pivotal year for us. It's the first year of a new strategy, and we're trying to do the groundwork for some really big projects, major capital projects, strengthening the organisation. And hopefully over the next 10 years, we want to deliver a museum that reflects and serves the whole region. So to summarise, your contribution is protecting the past, enabling access to the present, and helping us build something for the future. And we hope that you see value in the $37,000 you give to us each year. And we see the work we do in Central as being an important part of what we do. So thank you very much for listening. And once again, thank you for your support. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions? Ian? I just had one. When you build your new purpose-built off-site storage facility, might there be an available cupboard for things from Central Otago if we needed to store them somewhere?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the we've purchased a site in McLagan Street in Dunedin, which is on bedrock and above the floodplain. But we can't afford to do this on our own, so it will be a regional storage facility, and we're talking to some other partners to make it happen. So that's it's not something that's going to happen in 1 year or 2 years, but we're hoping sort of 3 to 5 years down the road, we will have this. And it won't just be a museum storage facility for us. We're talking about partnering with others. Archives New Zealand, for example, the university have got some issues as well. So very much, I would hope there'd be more than a cupboard.
That sounds great. Excellent. Thank you. Cheryl.
Haven't you already got a storage unit on McLagan Street?
We had an old one, which wasn't fit for purpose. So we actually sold that one and we've purchased a new building up the street. Presently, we're renting out 2/3 of it to a company called Oratane to generate some income while we kind of fundraise for the project. But we've got about a third of this new building, which is twice the size of the old building. And that's a site that we really want to develop. We think it's perfect for what would be a really good off-site storage facility.
Stuart.
Ian, Stu Duncan here from the Mini Otato. Just found it interesting with our mower footprints. How we come along with those? What's been done with them? Have you managed to secure a gel covering or anything to protect them? And
yes.
Is there a chance that we'll get a replica type that we can showcase off in our visit information centres or out of the Kaiwen River or anything like that for future tourism opportunities?
Well, two things. I know the prints themselves are in the final stage of being conserved and put in mounts for going on display. And we've got, I think, 2 of them are out on display at the moment. Remember, we've got 6 of them. And we are committed to trying to tour some of them. So the answer to your problem is yes. Your question rather is yes, hopefully. Once we've got the footprints stable, 1 or 2 of them might be able to tour the region. and we would hope that they might go into one of the smaller museums to give folks in Central a chance to see these amazing tauka. We've been doing some work around Kyburn as well. There's some signage going up around there. I don't know if you know much about that, but I know our team has been working with a community group in Kyburn to put some signage up around the Maori footprints near where they were found. So that is something that we are working very hard on, and you're absolutely right to kind of say that they are very, very important, and they're a very important part of the Central Otago story. I can't actually commit to a specific date on that yet because the team are still working on the prints, but they have come a long way. Obviously, it was 2019 when they came out of the river, and over that time they've dried, and they're now in a state where we can actually put them into permanent mountings. So it's been a long, slow process, but to be honest, not many people have done this before, and we didn't want to muck it up. So it's taking more time to make sure that we get them, you know, in a really good position, a really good condition for the future.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of moa remnants, eggs, bones, all through the Miniatoto, especially down in the Gimmerburn and the Waipiata, that it's a really good chance of that ecotourism that's happening now, with especially the line to the Tiaki, Miniatoto, the river, and, you know, just it's a sort of an unfound area, you might say, of tourism or ecotourism. So it'd be really cool to see if we could build on that with our tourist groups, because a lot of people are biking and south travelling through these regions now have just been opened up. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's definitely an untapped market. That and the dark skies that you've got out there. I know Naseby are doing some great stuff in the dark sky environment as well. And a lot of the folks who cycle tend to be interested in this stuff as well. So there's a really good a way to develop the market, so to speak. So no, I think you're right in that one.
Thank you. Any final questions? No? Okay. Right. There are some recommendations there that we receive the report and accept the level of significance, and approves the request to fund a proposed levy increase of 3% in the 2026-27 for the Tuhura Otago Museum, noting this is an additional $1,118 and will increase the payment to $38,415.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
We get the museum piece and move it. I'll second it.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favour? Aye.
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Dr. Griffiths. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but we got there in the end and you didn't have to do any dancing.
No, thank you very much. And I just want to apologise for not being there in person today, but I just couldn't get out. I had a court appointment this morning, so I would have liked to come and look you in the eye. So thank you very much.
We have missed an absolute cracker day in the Maniatoto, but perhaps the community board will invite you to come at some point if you were travelling through.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Kia ora.
Perfect. And Alex, you remain in the hot seat with Louise. And we are getting back to the main agenda, page 302, to talk about changes to allowances policy, which specifically relates to the elected member security system remuneration, which I think became quite a lot more contentious than anybody ever really thought it would. But let's talk through.
So where we have landed is the Remuneration Authority has introduced an allowance of up to $4,500 for the calling and monitoring security system at home for elected members. That's both council and community board members, plus $1,000 annually for maintenance. And that is comparable to the level provided to members of parliament as well, with extra provisions for any security needs that are beyond that. There are a series of criteria we need to consider and put into a policy under the Rem Authority's direction, and there's really two directions we can take. The first is to consider that a perception of safety is the measure that you need to determine the level of risk, and that elected members are best placed to make that decision for themselves. In that case, it would be a claim similar to the childcare or ICT allowances that you just make through a typical expenses policy, and that would be up to the member to do themselves. We could help by looking for forms of direct procurement that were cheaper, but by and large, you'd install your own equipment and then claim your money back. The second one is to take a model where there is criteria for the decision to be made. There's a higher degree of council involvement. There's therefore a higher degree of scrutiny over the spend, but it does require you to to report the level of risk to governance or the mayor to make a decision on whether or not that would be permitted. It does also open up questions like, would that camera equipment be removed once you left office? Would it be transferred to someone else's house? Would we come back and patch up the holes? So on the whole, those are the two directions we could take. There's a lot of pluses and minuses on both sides. I calculated that the total cost, assuming every single member was new and every single member claimed the whole amount, it would be about $175,000 per 3-year period. That's almost never going to happen because we have a high degree of returning members over time, and I can't imagine everybody claiming the full amount all the time. So the expenditures actually could be relatively low, but those are the two directions we can take, and it is over to you to pick which one. I'll just check if Wayne has anything to add before I do that. And just for all your reassurance, we record of security threats against elected members. It would never be released. It's all protected information. We could choose to proactively release at a period we choose together a report that says how many members have access to how much money as a whole and leave it at that to provide a degree of transparency, but we wouldn't go into the level of threats faced by any member, even if we choose the option that has us record it.
Questions?
Any members who felt threatened, harassed and unsafe will submit the request to the mayor. That could be most elected members coming home from a meeting.
That's a behavioural thing, Stu.
My wife did tell me she gets sick of me talking about council, those are the same thing. Anyway, come on to.
That does not cover feelings of safety from within your home.
Well, I read it and I just couldn't see then. I just wondered whether it did cover that.
You'd be happier with the body cam. Or a shot collar.
So that's cameras on the outside of your house, used by who? So
That's the choice. So I can't imagine you would ever have a system that was outside of a closed circuit for you to view, although if you did have that advanced security, you chose to record. If it were the first option, you would arrange the cameras yourself and claim the money.
yes,
If it was the second, it would.
Have you had any feedback from other councils around what they have?
I had a look into
Utilised?
it, and there is a mix, and they were still grappling through it. The majority of what we've put into this is experience. I have had to send police to threats on elected members on 3 occasions in my life to date. So for the way we were looking at it and the level of just the way that the security threats towards elected members are changing, it did feel like more access to elected members at that stage. Continue to share that point of view, that you are best to self-select the level of threat that you are facing.
Can I just say something?
Of course.
I have a security system at home. I have actually been subject to abuse on the street, and nothing to do with at home on 2 occasions actually. So as I say, I've already got my own security system, but I don't know that it would actually protect anybody if I were to encounter this out in the community.
Yeah, it tends to happen at the supermarket more often, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess that ties into there is a very public element to the role that we undertake, but when you go home, you should not be subject to, unpopular behaviour.
There is, when Wayne and I started considering this, it was during the election, and we were thinking of, is the security a barrier to people standing? And this is something we can offer that just helps mitigate their minds. I think it's not quite big enough to the scale of that worry to them, but we did think that was a factor to consider. It's not just for yourselves who are here now, but for someone considering running and thinking about it. Would this give them that extra comfort?
Well, it's there if somebody wants to use it, I guess. And so,
It's not a problem now, doesn't mean it might not be. If we don't have anything there to protect you, then there's a long road to enforce that, or is this be quite simple? So, go buy a couple of cameras. I've got my own, they're great.
Yeah.
You can talk to people through my cameras, I recommend.
Yeah.
But having that option on a quick turnaround if you do need it, otherwise it's a bit of waste of money spending money. You've got to miss the boat sometimes, depending on what the issue is. I don't feel like any of us right now would need to take it up again, but having that option isn't a bad thing, and we are putting ourselves in a position where everybody's got our contact details, everybody knows where you live. And you don't know what people take offence to what you've said or done, so a level of protection is a comfort, but also a level of comfort for the public that we're not going to go out and get a $5,000 system each and then do one term and bugger off and keep it and say thank you very much. Like that's equally, but putting something as a repayment option or something like that would be good. Just appreciate you paying back.
Some sort of clawback if you
Yeah.
up and did a month and then left.
Yeah, just to protect both ways, because I think having that protection for us is good, that we know we've got that backup, but then for the ratepayer not thinking we're just going, oh yeah, go on, I'll get a new security system for home and council will pay. Because I don't think any of us have got that intention with different councils, different people, but
We've
Thank
floated
you.
on some period, like 3 or 6 months that we're still working through, but we would look at putting a course like that in, which was just because we had the by-election, so it was top of mind as we've been developing.
I think also it is, while it, for the individual is one thing, but for some people, their family members may feel that that's an added level of protection if there is, and as Sarah rightly pointed out, it might not be for anyone sitting here currently, or it may be, but at the end of the day, it could be, it could help a family member to feel safer in their own home, because it's not just about us as elected members, you know, your kids cop it, you know, your other half cops it. So there's potentially other employees or people that you work with could cop it. So there is that element around it as well. Yeah, I guess the other thing that I would like, I mean, and this doesn't really tie into this, but there is, this is just on the flip side, the ability for elected members to, whether this might be a thing or not, Peter, you might know more about this, is a little bit about resilience, education, and being able to, in that de-escalation, that, you know, and that side of things. I think that would also be potentially quite helpful for elected members. So that ties in with that side of things as well. So there's a package side of things. So you've got the ability. So if you get harassed at the supermarket or something, you've got a bit more personal skill to deal with that as it is, and to, you know, to settle things down. I don't know, just as a thought.
We had that for staff and
Yes.
advice around techniques with drop a pin or something to break the moment.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it back when we bring this policy back.
I do wonder if there needs to be not necessarily some sort of form, but just some sort of tick in a box for if an elected member is going to pay for it. I think there's probably an expectation from our community here that it's not something you get because you're an elected member. It's something that you apply for because you feel unsafe in your home due to being an elected member. And it's not that, oh, this is something that you can just claim because you're sitting at one of the tables. It's for a need. And whether that's just a form that you're willing to sign to say, I feel there are, you know, security threats towards me or my home, or I feel unsafe. I just would like to have that additional layer of not just people turning up on day one going, I'll have one of those things, which I don't think we would get here, but you never know what's coming in the future for around the kitchen table.
I think it needs to be on an ad hoc basis, really, just, you know, like.
Which is how.
And it's not, for most people, it'll be a trail can from the local sports shop or something. It's not going to be some 24-hour monitor by the security company and pay loads of money for. It might be like that in the city, but I don't think that's A, what is available here, and B, what people would be after.
And yeah, we can do that through options. I have got that in the existing policy.
Our cost.
So are we happy if we look at, receives the report, agrees in principle, subject to further work, to expand the existing elected member allowances and reimbursement policy? People happy with that?
Yeah, fine.
I'm happy to move that.
Perfect, thank you, Tracy. Thanks, Bob. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we move to approval of the annual plan. On page 307, and Amelia and Kisawitz will be joining us.
It's been, it's just,
Here we go. It's Tracy's lunchtime. We're talking about you in the car on the way over, like, damn it, either of you two can hold the thermostat.
Yeah, we're not probably got sitting together.
Got a coach, she's got a car, she's got a coach, she's got a party. Yeah, it's hot on.
Wonderful. Welcome, team. The annual plan. Annual plan 26-27, we brought a draft before Christmas that you all took away and read diligently over the Christmas break. And then we had a workshop in February to request feedback. So we've worked through that and we are bringing this draft for approval. So we're bringing this now to allow LTP to open at the end of this month, which is on track for our very clearly defined timeline for the LTP. But this is not the final adoption of the annual plan. That will happen in June after the revaluations have been taken into account, and we can provide you then with some rate 5 examples for different property types. But right now we are working with an average rate increase of 6.34%, which is an improvement of the forecast in the long-term plan, which is 7.51%. So we have not consulted on this annual plan because none of the changes that have been presented through it met the threshold for consultation. So it's pretty much what we said we would do in year 2 of the LTP. It's going to be done with some minor changes and some savings as well from those changes. The fees and charges, this is the first time you've actually seen the fees and charges. These weren't presented at any of the previous draft discussions. So we have seen increases across the fees and charges, mainly due to inflation and cost recovery. And there is one additional charge that will be added prior to June adoption, which is for property files, which is an existing service that we don't charge for, but we'll be doing in the future. There we go. Are there any questions about the draft annual plan, the process of fees and charges?
Yeah. Can you go back to the property file I was on earlier? Are we, everything's going to be charged for every request? That is every property file request, like where you go in on the right hand side of the GIS map and you submit that form. Is that regardless of what you look for? That's $45 flat fee for in discoverable file.
To have a property file provided electronically, yes.
Yeah, so
there is a start cost in time to provide that.
were we ever looking at going towards an EDOC system like other councils do? Well, they say like that, and obviously it's just discoverable immediately. It's like if we are digitising our files, are we looking at moving towards that, or is this where that process will start?
Would be a nail question. I don't think there's anything currently planned to move to that. That's not to say we couldn't look into it, but we'll take that away and I'll go to Nathan for.
Because it's from the other end of it, it's a frustrating process to have to request the file and wait. And the staff are really good, like that's no answer and stuff, but the fact that you do have to send a request and get the form and then get the property file as and when they do it, if it's digitised already, that's kind of done. If we now we're bringing in that building and changing that platform, it would be really good if that was also somewhere we move to. Because I know councils I deal with that you pay for and we have to request them. It's fairly prohibitive. ADOPS is definitely and be free as well. Okay, interesting. Thanks.
We have been through this stuff a bit before, but any other questions?
Yeah, sorry if we've covered this before, but obviously some of the savings or the changes come from not delivering the capital works program, and you push it into next year. Does that mean that we have are we going to have an expanded capital works program next year, or will you keep pushing projects into the following year?
So that will be where the LTP comes in, kind of understand what we will do for the 27-28 years, the years after that. Obviously some of those capital works sit in waters, so there is some things to work through there with how that transition works to southern waters and what stage projects get to before they are transitioned over. But yeah, that will be all discussed in the LTP.
If some of those capital works projects that have been put back, if you like, have not been put back through choice, they're just projects that have drifted back, is that correct? Or
it's a bit of a mix, so they've also had a chance to look at right at the end of last calendar year in December. So they have 6 months time to work on existing projects and reassess those timelines. So now we're being more confident on when we're actually going to deliver those projects, and as those delivery does affect some of the assumptions and then as a result we're saying these bits budgets. So the plan is still to deliver them. Yeah.
I guess if we didn't have the growth component in there, we'd be getting close to the government 4% that they've been touting about. But we're never at this stage in our medium to long term, we're not going to have any changes in that growth component, are we? That growth component is there to stay.
It is, but it varies, doesn't it? You're talking about the 2.1.
Yeah.
That figure we use. I think in the LTP we said it reduces to 1.6 in a few years' time. But as we recast the next LTP, we will be reassessing the growth component again, because as we sort of saw with some of Dylan's work and Julie's work, you know, our capacity has been consumed pretty quickly in some of our network because of what we're seeing in terms of development. So there's going to be growth in Central Otago district for many, many years to come. What that actually lands on every 3 years, we'll have to work out what that number is.
Yeah, and I guess the consistent message from around this table is that we are looking at growth paying for growth. But if we haven't got that right, and we're, as you say, we're only one fast track application away from not quite getting it right that we don't know about.
I thought it was quite nicely tied into our presentation from quotable value last workshop, where they talked about, you know, we come to a 6.34% average rise, recognising that some people would be over and under, and that is exceptional, and how much work has gone into that. And on the back of that people's property values have risen an average of 8%. So hopefully people are feeling a wee bit more comfortable about that, and I'm delighted that did not start with a 1 or something else followed by another number, because not every council has been able to get to this position. And a big part of that is because over the last couple of years, we've really borne the brunt of catching up to where we needed to be. And hopefully now we can continue to diminish that figure without diminishing the services that people know and love and enjoy and are very appreciative for.
Wonderful.
Wouldn't it just? So if there are no additional questions, probably the big one to cover off is that we have agreed we are hopefully going to agree, that's the recommendation, not to consult on this annual plan. And that is because next year is going to be a huge long-term plan. It has already had work begin on it by the team, and really we need to crack on with that. It's going to be the big one. We don't need to consult on this because we've done an annual long-term plan last year. So instead of coming out to the community again this year, we will put all our effort into them feeding into our long-term plan for next year, which will look quite different as we farewell 30% of our workload and revenue. Right.
I'm happy to move.
You're happy to move it. Thank you very much, Tracy. Seconded by Curtis. Now, did anybody, before we move that, before we all go through it, the draft fees and charges, any questions? We've had some challenges with these before. Are we 100% sure the draft fees and charges have been squared away and that they have gone through line by line and we don't have any really bizarre anomalies that have been missed?
We are at this point very sure, but also we've got until June to have another triple check to make sure that everything's fine before final adoption.
Wonderful. On that basis, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Said Amelia is going to remain with us. Don't close your computer yet. We are on to our risk update, please. Which, you know, the world just seems to be looking riskier and riskier by the minute, but not all of it's on our register, so do please pull through.
So this is I think it'll be the second meeting now that we brought this same paper. So we last updated the risk register in February for the February audit and risk meeting. So nothing has changed since then. Through April and May, we will be working to update those risks. In addition to adding in a bit of a horizon as well to that risk paper for to audit and risk committee, just so we can talk about the external goings on that are occurring and are inevitably going to impact us, but aren't captured on the key risk register. So yes, nothing has changed in relation to the risk scores themselves, but happy to take any questions. Anything from anyone?
I thought the Cromwell Hall operational readiness was actually a medium, wasn't it last time?
So we reduced that to low for the February update.
Yeah.
Because we're getting close.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Closer and closer.
Yeah.
ticking on nicely.
Good.
Appreciate that this report was written last week or the week before, but where would fuel rationing fit in your risk profile? Would it be a business continuity risk or financial sustainability? Like if it was to manifest that this situation got out of hand and there was fuel rationing, do we say, well, that's it?
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily fit into business continuity, but business continuity in an extreme situation could be enacted to try and mitigate the risk caused by fuel rationing. But probably sits in some of the service delivery stuff that we've got through. There's a bit of a spread through a few different risks in there. You know, if we can't get out with a reasonable cost to visit someone's build to inspect it, how do we work through that? That's not a question I can answer in just a random hypothetical I'm throwing out there, but yeah, there will be discussions about service that would.
Yeah, I suppose I suppose where I'm going with it is when do you think you'll start to factor that in?
That'll be in the next round of discussions. So with ELT in April and May, and then through to audit and risk get started.
So it's sort of, I don't know.
Otherwise, Peter will be looking for council horses.
Teacher, teacher.
Other things to know, we've got a fleet.
Councils get staff get all their points.
Yes, we're looking at options, so if it does escalate that we do have plans in place, and that might actually be a reduction in service for a period of time because we need to prioritize collecting waste as opposed to recycling glass, different things like that. If it did get to the point, because they're big high fuel vehicles, then you might have to look at actually rationing and prioritizing service fleet. And so we're starting to work through what scenarios might look like as part of that. Because plans or different things as a result of that. So we are looking at what could eventuate if it did get significantly worse. But at this point, it doesn't look like there is
hopefully going to be that's.
goes on, yeah.
Could that flow onto lots of roading and bridge maintenance and bridge rebuilds? Because obviously clearly if the contract's set and they come back, is there a risk that the contractors come back saying, well, we can't administer it for that cost?
Yeah, so there is some legal guidance coming out around, the makeup of contracts and how escalation might look and different things like that. But, like, for example, the road contract, it's a cost of us, so that cost would just be passed through as part of,
Which will change their budgets a lot.
potentially, or yes, you might just have to.
Yeah, when we do we'll look at the work program and roading, probably sooner than the waste management one, I'd imagine.
Potentially, but from a cost point of view, we just have to manage the amount of work we're doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Basis.
Yeah.
So potentially, the real risk is that even in here, this guy's been told, I'm not getting any diesel. So when you do have a roading contract going out, you have to prioritise grading renewals or anything like that. And therefore, we'd have to run the risk that we pull the trigger really early. Because we can always start our work program, but once we find out that we're 35,000, 40, 50,000 over budget, so it's just probably, I don't know why I feel that way, but I just think it's those big ticket items where, you know, they cost a lot, as if they can get supply, and even bridges, it costs a lot of money to cart stuff in and cart it and concrete and that, all that cost. Maybe we need to pull the trigger early.
So, yeah, slow things down early.
I mean, we are going to be going into the winter period where
That's reduced anyway.
it's
Yeah.
reduced anyway, so
Yeah, but we are having those conversations now and recognising that this may become a bigger issue.
Yeah.
I think it's just got that
Important to
feel.
be talking about it now and making plans as opposed to being surprised by it. And pleased that everybody's thinking about risk in this way, Amelia. Must be music to your ears. Cheryl.
So, QP, if you're going to be, if you were going to be looking at reducing the service in terms of the rubbish collection, etc., would you also then include something like some kind of reduction in cost because people would then start using the transfer station more often? I mean, would you incorporate that as well?
I guess from a cost perspective, it's probably going to cost the same. If the price is increasing, there's not actually going to be a saving and potentially collecting less. It would be that.
But ratepayers would have to go to the transfer station more often, so it would actually end up being a higher cost to them.
You're essentially rating for something you're not delivering to.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we're just working through, what that might look like and what additional service could be provided at the transfer station, but there is free drop off for recycling. For instance, at the transfer station, although it costs to get 4 people if they did have excess recycling, but yeah, with presentation rates of bins and different things around to us, for instance, you could drop a glass collection and go to a 2-month collection to save a 4 grand district collection. And that might not affect as many people based on current presentation rates, but your green bin and red bin is more of a health issue in terms of not collecting as opposed to recycling or glass that could sit for a 2-week or 4-week period.
Your rates could include a FAF, fuel adjustment factor.
Saw that.
We've had it for years.
Yeah. Right. The report to be received and its contents noted. I'm happy to move that. Thank you, Nathan. Is happy to second it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Now move to item 26.3.15 on page 315, which is proposal for preparing a local bill with Dylan. He is there. Dylan Rushbrook. Tracy is stepping aside because she is so entwined in the in the water. But I'm going to hand over to Stu and I will step aside as well because I get a measly 1 hectare worth of water that does at some point come from Falls Dam. So just to keep this process 100% watertight, I'm going to hand over to Stu and he will chair this part of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Dylan.
Thank you. Thank you, Stu. I've also got Nick with me as if there's any questions in relation to the CODC report by VG Patterson. That was excuse on that area. But Just to give you a bit of an outline. So today's paper is about initiating a process to confirm the minimum flow of Manahurkia River and securing land or easements if they are required should full standing be raised. As an organisation with limited resource and well understood pressures on costs, we're seeking direction from councillors before going down this path and informing council to additional costs and resource drag. To that end, engagement so far has been informal and limited as we haven't formally begun any process. Thanks, Peter, for last week attending a meeting with representatives of Mana Whenua while I was on leave, and also to the representatives of the Manahurkia River Limited Group who have met with us previously. As you'll note, this paper makes no recommendation on what the level of flow should be, or that the dam should be refilled by. Those matters would be determined by undertaking this process and informed by the process, which will undoubtedly include the previous work undertaken by ORC, by Mana Whenua, by CODC, by Manahurkia River Limited, and I'm sure many other stakeholders. As outlined in Appendix 1, the guide to introducing a local bill, there is a lengthy and detailed engagement process to be undertaken that provides a platform for formal engagement with the community, all of our partners, in consideration of science and research. As pointed out in the public forum, there is certainly risk in undertaking this process. We do not understand all those risks right now, as we have not initiated the process. Once we begin the process and engage expertise, we will be able to return to you and confirm exactly what those risks are. This may be an exit point so if you deem those risks to be too high. Indeed, there are a number of points along the way where council may wish to exit from this process, should those risks be too high or the outcomes not align with council's intent. You will also note there's significant variation in the estimated costs of the completed full process. This is once again because we simply don't know all the detail until we engage appropriate expertise. Once that information is confirmed, we will return to this table, confirm exactly what those are, and that may be another exit point, as those costs may be deemed unacceptable to you. The key outcome council is likely to seek is the certainty of water supply to key townships, which would enable the expansion of those townships in the future. This process may not provide that outcome. That may be another exit point for council. If it does get to a stage where being formally written up as a draft bill, council may review that bill and not support that draft. It may be another exit point where council doesn't wish to go further. As outlined in the paper, there is no guarantee whatever is put forward will be successful. If it does get to Parliament, it will then go through the government processes, which will include readings in Parliament and the select committee process. It may not make it past the first reading, or it may well be amended through this process. The final outcome could well be that the minimum flow is to be high comparatively even to what ORC have drafted in their regional land and water plan. Today is not about what the minimum flow should or shouldn't be. It is about initiating a process to eventually get to that answer. It's currently, it sits in limbo, and that's of no help to anyone. Open to questions.
Any questions here? Truly, plenty of questions for.
I'm not sure, Peter, sorry if you had any.
No, I've got nothing. Good summary.
So the recommendations A through F, recommendation E is to do with that cost exposure, liability, when we're indicating 90 to 130K. But you are also saying that this would allow staff to go off and investigate, and then you would bring back or come back seeking formal approval to proceed. So we would not be today signing up as such to this cost exposure. And I think, well, this is what I think personally, our cost exposure, if we went ahead with this, is going to be quite a bit higher than that, especially if we didn't party up with MRL. Yes, I just wanted to clarify that we're not agreeing to the cost today.
100%. Okay. So what we're essentially seeking is there will be some cost and there will be some resource drag to initiate the process.
Yep.
I don't even know how much that may be, but I would estimate it could be up to 30,000 as an initial step into the process. That will then be able to confirm for us what the actual full cost will be and any other requirements along the way.
Okay, and then in coming back, you would have an improved view of true costing.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
And what would be the timeline in coming back?
Again,
And a real guess.
it's maybe 2 months from now, so 2 months from now.
Okay, thank you.
The consideration of the financial office and Manuheri Care River Limited. In the perception of this public meeting, it looks like we're getting support from, and some people, the opposition, or being pushed around by the river user group in a discussion that's probably a community well-being thing or community good. Should we not be trying to keep our independence for funding of a bill that we're proposing?
Yeah, look, I think that's a decision for the government's table. We're putting options in front of you, cognizant of our cost pressures as an organisation, and that there is an offer on the table. But there is absolutely an option there for independence, fully funded by council.
Because really, if people who didn't want to see irrigation or land use change and or water storage or environmentalists that clearly thought of the Tussock country to be thinking that the feasibility study was sponsored by the irrigators, puts us in a pretty tricky spot, I would have thought. But the front loading of the cost it won't be at the front, will it?
In terms of
Well, when we go through, if we go through this process, we're talking about 30,000 as a startup process. Where would the cost lie when it goes to
as you go through that process, we'll have to employ experts to help us with this, which will be around drafting the bill. That will be where the bulk of the cost will lie, be legal expertise to support the drafting of the bill. There will be cost prior to that point, which will be around engagement processes and bits and pieces along the way, but that won't be with
This could be one of the most significant pieces of work that we do for a long time. And it's got a whole council, whole community impact.
Yeah, but look, essentially, I mean, council's got to be the eye of the storm, isn't it? Because when ORC was pushing this through and it was debated, there was always articles in the ODT for and against. It was well covered, but it was very topical. And the cost, this is not going to be a cheap process, and this initial work will help what those costs are. And then you'll be able to make an informed choice. But equally, if you believe that actually this needs to be independent, but you can amend that, the recommendations, and you can make that known from the very beginning, so there's no doubt. And then when we come back with what we anticipate the cost to be, you'll understand then that falls on council, and this is what it is.
So if it falls on council, we'll take it out. We just have to then decide at some stage where that bottom, how we fund it.
Correct. So that is an option that is put in there as one of the options, not the recommendation. There's an alternative option, which is council funds the first phase, understands what the full costs are, and then looks at whether or not there is any alternative funding to come in, because there may be other parties who may be willing to fund as well. We haven't canvassed the room, I suppose.
But that's not a recommendation though, is it?
That's not a recommendation.
But we could change.
You could change the recommendation.
I like the idea, Dylan, on the fact that it kind of starts to align with our priority two of protection. So we'd be seeking to kick this work off, do that investigative stage, because it does tie in with that protection side of things. And then once you understand the full scope and a much better feel of cost, then we'd reassess how it aligns with the values.
The down here, the proposal, point two, support the implementation of a minimum flow regime consistent with RC science and regional planning, page 318.
Which page?
318. So that would be our position when at select committee stage, we would support the RC science on the matter. Is that?
Well, that's to be determined, and the only reason I say that is because we'll have to if the agreement was at some stage to really push on this, we'd have to review all the literature that's currently out there. It may be that actually you may come with a position that aligns with, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be OSC. So I wouldn't say it's one way or the other at the moment because we just don't have the information.
Yeah, because that's where I was going was this, you know, they have a sliding scale from 1.2 to 2.5 cube by 2040, but it was my understanding that raising the dam to deliver a 2.5 minimum flow wouldn't be feasible, like, it would be uneconomical for the people to build the dam if that was the minimum flow that was set. So that's that point there is not locking us into that.
Sorry, no, that's not the intent of this, to say that you're locked into what ORC is.
Right. Yeah.
I think what the paragraphs on 316 show is the variations in the thoughts on what it could be, what it should be, and that this council is going to be right in the middle of that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, one more. So this morning, Edward Elson was challenging that setting a minimum flow via a local government bill was reasonably unusual and would be open to be challenged as a decision. Is that correct, or how do you?
It's our understanding. Again, we have to go through and do a bit more work, but our understanding is actually this is an appropriate and legally allowed method of getting to that.
Yeah, so once it's through select committee and there's a decision
Well,
made.
the decision of Parliament is not a decision of council. We're putting something to Parliament. It is up to Parliament to then enact it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not
But every decision of council could be challenged for a judicial review.
Right. Yeah. So, but the bill itself couldn't be challenged. Obviously.
No, the bill would have to.
Yeah.
And that would be added cost.
There is any legal challenges. That's why, again, it's really important to do this right, get the right expertise to support us through this process.
Eyes wide open.
Make sure we
It's interesting that MRL have three options. I mean, they actually they had four options, couldn't they? They could have got ORC to sponsor a local government bill, I am guessing. But they still have a couple other options. The fast track. If council didn't want to be in that eye of the storm, it could. Yeah. So, but we'll get the advice if that's what council's intending, and we'll be able to bring back good legal advice to say, okay, this is the process, this is the timeline, this is the cost, this is the risk. You wish to proceed.
We want to own it, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it has to be. Well,
In the sense, we want to get it going.
I guess the converse of that is that the current regulatory environment we operate in, territorial councils, district councils aren't responsible for the waterways.
No, but I'm saying we want to be positive to start getting a result.
Yeah,
It affects our whole community for the next 100 years if we get it wrong. And it's been muddly for a long time, so we need to get it.
I think we want to be very, very careful and clear of what we might potentially want to own.
Well, we want to drive. I guess what I'm meaning by that is we want to be seen as a progressive council, start that wheel rolling and initiate the process and say, well, we're sick of getting muddled around and let's get some action.
So could the national policy statement on freshwater management planned before we get this bill done, and then ORC could have the ball back in their court?
Yeah, and that's and I think Edward brought that out, that's the confusing aspect, isn't it? You could have a local government bill that legislates one thing and a national policy standard that goes the other way. And subsequently, so how that all knits together is, I don't know.
Yeah. But what, like, is it a case of whichever one lands first is the precedent, or?
I don't know, and that might be, again, the advice we seek from the experts to say, well, what's the impact on this if water national policy standards released? No, that's all. Because we won't be the regulator either at the moment, that's with the ORC.
They're no longer going to be there.
Well, they're going to be there, all that's not going to be there at the moment is the council.
It's not the governance.
But I mean, we've got multiple exit gateways here if things change on us.
Yeah, somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Bring this back to you and you go, whoa, it's not what we have something land, it's not policies, where the risk is too high. whatever it is. It's excellent.
Anyone else got any questions?
And all I'd say too is, we've got national elections at the end of the year. And that could be completely different, we could be in a different political environment in December. And what that means, something like this could be significant.
With having to consider the office for Manure Care, we don't have to have that as a part of the discussion or the recommendation?
No,
You can just remove
you
that.
can remove that.
So we can, if we look at option one is approve, investigate and develop flow, confirms that the sponsorship by the co-sponsors wants chief executive to promote the agent delegate authority to engage in Parliament Council office. Take out for, or look at how we word for, and I just feel feels like the irrigators are sponsoring the bill.
But if we, how do I say this? If this first phase is enabling the staff to go off, do some work and then come back in a few months' time, we're not talking about trying to find hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about 30, 40,
Yeah.
So we don't even have to consider the MRL.
You could say for the clients at this stage, the offer of financial and resource support from MRL. At this stage, it might change, but at this stage, we don't need it.
Or you could
You
put
can
it
just
as
take it out of the.
an alternative, we'll review the offer at a later date.
Because ultimately they are the direct beneficiaries and
Well, we would have a more secure town supply.
yeah, they ultimately, but it doesn't need to fall all on them because it's a council, it's a Central Target District Council major issue and it affects minimum flows of other creeks and rivers in the district. And they all shouldn't fall on them as themselves either.
And like I said before, we haven't canvassed other parties. There may be other parties who may.
Yeah.
So that may be too narrow, I think, in scope. Like that. Maybe it is simply we just remove line D for now and that can come back in a further paper.
Wait, I suggest we've got some
Words.
so let's, yeah.
Acknowledges.
Well, I'm wondering if I'm hearing it correctly, they would just take all that away and just have B, that you'd go away and let's look at the process and then bring a report back. Well, that's the original B, but I think it's still is reflective of what's been said.
Yeah.
Go away, come back, and maybe C. If you need some help with B.
Yes, we do.
How's that?
Do we need to show costings in the recommendation or just is that enough to cover it?
Well, I think, so the reason we wrote that into the recommendation around the estimate was so you as governors were aware of what we were potentially getting ourselves in for.
It would, and it would be helpful if you had the view, because we've identified where funding could come from. Because we have no funding set aside for this.
Yeah.
So, but we've tagged some money. It might be helpful if you confirm the use of that, because at the moment, we'll just have to cast across the budgets to find, and we end up might go into deficit accounting, because if it comes out of my account, I've got no money to fund this, we'll just run up a deficit to fund it. I know, because we did put that statement in there.
We have put a statement in there.
So, I don't know what the nominal sum is to do that initial investigative work, but we will probably be approaching legal firms that have had some experience with local government bills. Because the Waimea Dam comes to mind, the Naitahu, Cans one was another one that went through the house. So there's some firms out there that have done this before.
Why is it not option one and you just remove the 50% part?
So
That's what I was getting at.
Because don't you want the delegated authority to engage the parliamentary council?
Well,
Do you need that at this stage or?
Yeah, we will probably engage because that might be part of the process to understand.
Yeah.
the timeline and everything.
Because I feel like we've already, investigating the development's already in motion, you know. The way and you strip out the 50%.
It just, that's the only thing that doesn't sit with them, well, it might trigger, we can get out of any stage. It puts them and us in a tricky situation that the irrigation company is funding us to take a building part. And that, it may feel like that on the outside.
So do you have the funds tagged there in option one or not?
And a dollar amount on it?
That's the, with the 50%, we're saying that that's the total, to give awareness of the potential total cost.
And that could be, how long could that process take?
To come back with.
No, to the, if we went all the way through, that 280,000, what?
12 months.
So it could be over 2 financial years.
Yep.
But that 180 to 260K is based on looking at other works in this area, but have never involved a minimum flow on a, like,
Correct.
you can't use those numbers with any authority, I don't feel.
There's a level of east.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we need to be very careful about stating them, because then they become, you probably said, I'm gonna spend 260 grand and all of a sudden we're up to 500. Yeah.
So you can.
We're just talking about point 3, the chief executive, delegate.
Look, I think we are able to engage with the parliamentary office as a matter of course. I think, you know, it is the parliamentary office. And so if you were to approve, you know, that B there, to me, that would, and B and C, then that gives us the ability to start the process. We'd engage professional services, and in those professional services, we'd probably, through them, engage the parliamentary office to understand that part of the process, so we can bring that back for consideration.
And so I completely agree with what Peter's just said. I think with D there, I think we probably need to expand that and say, notes the estimate is this, but staff will bring back confirmed costing.
Yeah, we can't just leave it completely open-ended.
And then you'll trigger the next bit of some sponsorship can come from here, or we can take it out of gold mining royalties, or
Can't leave it completely open.
no, but I mean,
Who knows where it
but-
goes.
because it's a big chunk of money.
And
But
then-
it's actually a really, really important chunk of money.
We shall not get a care irrigation in there at all, because it could also be seen that we're putting money up front and that they're going to come up second and put their money in, because we've already given them a positive steer.
That's
If people are against irrigation, they've got to look at, whether we take money from any irrigation early or later, makes no difference to them, because we might be doing some work initially, investing some money, which then gives a good positive steer, it's going to work, they then invest their money. So it doesn't matter, so I wouldn't mention them in here at all. Might be for funding, but don't mention them. Being part of this.
Yeah, they're doing their work.
Alongside
Decide
it.
doing it well, just let them do it.
Yeah.
And then if later on we all merge at the end of the.
Yep.
It also says in here that the ORC still got some work to do, too, doesn't it? It does, but they're not allowed to, under the law, the government has stopped all changes, so they can't advance it any further now.
Which is essentially how we've gotten into this.
Yeah.
No one can set a minimum.
That's why we've got to that point.
Yeah, we're in the money.
The time.
Any other comments or?
I don't know, it's stating the obvious, but I don't know if you want to note that this is going to be
Contentious.
contentious.
Yes.
I mean, eyes wide open, this.
It's going to be a shit fight. Well, we're up for that. We've made some tough decisions before. Charlie, got any ideas? No? Cheryl,
But it's stated the obvious.
Sorry?
anything you want to add or?
Anything you want to add from the economic development point of view?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions about the report we did some time ago. It's a big piece of work.
Well, no, so well, if there are no other questions, we've got recommendations.
One last thing.
Oh, yep.
So is this recorded as, I'm just getting this straight in my mind, proposal to prepare a local bill which is what it's titled, or is this a proposal to investigate preparing a local bill?
Investigate the process of developing a local bill. And we'll bring that process back, the resources from a human resource, from a monetary resource and a timeline and the risks back to you, so you can see it all, and then you can make an informed decision whether you want to proceed with the local government bill or not.
Clear on that?
I know what roller coaster I've just buckled into now.
It's got to be a green light.
Oh, no, good, all good.
And would that actually also then provide a comparison with whether you're going to go into some form of partnership with the likes of Manahira River Limited, or what it would look like to go alone?
Well, it will show you what the numbers are, and actually there's other conversation to be had about is there partnerships to be explored that would be useful, because they may not be going far.
Okay.
And there would be another decision.
Here we go.
Sally, got anything to add, say?
I think it needs to be, that's it, yeah, it's good.
Numbers on it?
Yeah.
Anyone else have, anyone else got any other comments or questions for the staff?
For Peter, so the costs you're going to incur in doing this investigative phase.
Well, we'll carry those guys. So I think we can, I mean, we got paid the payment for the access agreement. 50 minus GST, whatever, you know, that 15%. And so we have that normally sitting, I think, in the voting. But it's there so that we could utilise it. So at the moment, because I have no more legal budget left or management where I could go and hire the sort of. So that's a potential funding, but we can look into it and come back to you. But then my initial one is the fund is from a net positive balance, not a deficit.
One option on there, Nathan, you may wish to put a cap on what the initial phase cost up to
200,000. After that, you might have to go out for sponsorship to pay the rest.
But you'll just keep coming back to us.
Well, we will. I would like to think 30, maybe 40, but if it's going above that, I'll be going to actually anyway. But you may wish to put that into the recommendations to get yourself.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to have that there just as a circulate back.
This shows good stewardship, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've got to seem to be prudent as much as we can, because we're spending non-irrigators and non-water users money.
You just say, so that's authorise the chief executive to spend up to
200.
Well, I don't know. An amount.
Yeah.
Now that you think's appropriate, and then beyond that, we'll fall back to it.
Yeah.
And Peter, would you know where that funding is coming from?
Yeah, like that one. Yeah. We could peg it already to a positive balance.
Access agreement.
So we're not going into debt to fund this work. And actually, you know, with the regional deals and the mining royalties and our arguments around that is mining royalties should be put to infrastructure resilience and economic growth and all those sorts of things. So that money that's come from Santana going into something like a study like this would be appropriate in the way it's sort of aligned with the regional deals for the funding.
Mm.
And then we're sure what number you were thinking, but it doesn't matter. So we just put.
Doesn't matter, Peter, we're not just a each other much like.
Can I just speak?
Just say he hosts down.
We call that from the access agreement funding.
CEO's fuel cap.
Yeah. What's that?
Take your week's holiday, but we're actually.
National access agreement funding. Because that's really, should really be going from, because that's
There's the alignment there.
there's an alignment there of actually if it starts the process, a lot of follow on behind that, and it'll be a seed funding.
Don't give them the whole 40, say up to 40.
The agreement with.
Yeah, but technically, good idea.
It's MGL, isn't it?
Bob.
Yeah.
Bob,
Just
sorry.
going to ask, can I just be clear about what we're proposing here? Is this a proposal to explore the procedure to prepare a local bill? Is that the correct wording or?
The process to come back to you with a clear defined process.
How it becomes the bill.
And who those expertise will be, how much that will cost us, what the time frames will look like, what the risks and exit points may be.
Should we also put in there confirms Miles Anderson and Joseph Mooney as a co-sponsor? Or that-
I think
That's just on the outside, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Everyone's quite happy?
Yeah, that is,
You all right?
we're rock solid.
You're gonna have to be.
You're right.
There's missiles will be coming in. Righto,
Get those
so
cameras up.
I recommend A, B, C, D, and E. Any other questions? Anyone like to move the recommendation? Martin will move it. Someone second the recommendation?
Nathan.
Okay, I'll be brave. I'll second.
His eyebrows are now beside his hand.
I don't know if I wanted my name against it. Here we go.
Nathan will second it. All those in favour? Those against? You vote then,
Yeah,
good?
yeah.
Yeah. Great. So that's hopefully the big step forward in the process, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, staff.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you.
Ooh. Thanks, team. Like Nathan said, buckle up.
I'll Trumpy state the pension of us.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, no, that's.
Page 357, local governance statement. This is that feels very much a procedural
Wish you get signed.
thing.
Look it up, everyone. Adoption of the local governance statement. Now, the local governance statement is required by the law and has to be completed within 6 months of the election. And you'll see on page 357 and a little bit of 358, all the bits and bobs that need to be in it. And so that's pretty much it. If there's any questions. A glorious document that I look forward to every 3 years.
Oh, I think you did a good job, haven't we? I'll move the recommendation. I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion, or is there anybody who thinks something is missing from it that they would like to add or amend? No, those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. 382.
And then moving on, the Local Government New Zealand Conference and AGM. It's being held in sunny Rota Vegas.
Recommendation fees for Christchurch.
Yes, I know. I just changed it. No, it's chocolate fish for Bob.
He's done a couple
Oh,
of
you get it first.
Let me know.
I was just waiting for it.
Yes, it's in yeah. And traditionally, the mayor, the New Zealand councillor has gone, and also Peter Walker. Yeah.
I might note to that, because it also has the AGM,
Yeah.
there is an expectation that we either send someone to vote or.
Yeah.
deny they-
Yes, it's proposed that you're the presiding member of
Yeah.
that, with your deputy being Tracy.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other thing is the other councillor who's got it, and if you want to
Yeah.
talk to that.
Yeah, we might talk to that. There has been another councillor. Usually what we would do is put it out to the group to say, is there anybody else who wants to go this time, along with the mayor and deputy mayor? But we have done that for the last 3 years, and one person has put their hand up every time and then not been able to go. So if you are happy for the invite to be extended to Sarah, I did ask if you could check her calendar and confirm or deny her availability.
Donald Trump has made me available, so can't get to the UK, so go to Rota Vegas.
Because we try and get the most efficient flights and accommodation available, Rachel has already booked refundable flights. We obviously have no idea what travel around the country might look like then, but they are all fully flexible. So if, for example, our flights were to be cancelled and rebooking was going to cost an astronomical amount, then we would absolutely come back and reassess who might be going or not going, assuming that it were to go ahead, which I suspect it will. So if we put in there the mayor, deputy mayor, and Councillor Brown?
I'll
Anybody
move.
got that? Any, thank you, moved Martin and seconded Bob. And we will, of course, put together a PowerPoint and or.
Interruption.
Oh,
We'll just be
I'm gonna
back
get
in
some
singers, Trace.
Yeah.
We haven't got.
Pretty tricky stuff.
Put a dance on, I'm gonna put it on the slide and come back and share what it's been. And I will ask Tanya if she can fetch me a brief.
It's got to live in the school. It was all day.
And then they say
Plastic bags, plastic bags anymore.
last time we went.
Comes in, I don't know.
Aye.
Against carried. Thank you. Next we have my report. Which I was excited to write for you.
Slideshow.
Because I put a little slideshow in this and I did discover that, because I did take a number of photos of infrastructure while I was away on a family holiday. I did also discover that the one that was supposed to be a photo. So we've got manhole covers there. So beautifully designed, locally distinctive covers that are so popular that they feature on t-shirts, hoodies, towels, stickers, and are sold as souvenirs. It was a great reminder that even the most boring basic pieces of infrastructure can be made beautiful.
Did the Japanese steal them like you steal road cones here?
No, there is no
It
stealing in
is
Japan.
very, not like, very loyal on.
Very, very restrained. Stormwater infrastructure. So there were a really cool area where we went where there are rice paddies right through the middle of town. Every little piece of available land is used to grow something and people don't have fences around their properties because it's just deemed that your house is your property and everything else is shared. So I obviously got a bit excited about the stormwater infrastructure that doubles as irrigation because I took a video of it, not a photo. So I can show that to you later, QP. Large scale land stabilisation works above roads and waterways with basically these enormous lattices of concrete across hillsides where they sit above a road because they do get quite a lot of rain and snow melt there. So that was really interesting. And finally, pine trees, which is funny because we did spend quite a lot of time discussing them. I have found that every time I go away somewhere and see a pine tree, I assess it mentally as to whether it is the appropriate tree for that place. But there they were beautiful trees that are manicured and bonsai'd and just in the right place at the right time. Today we did discuss whether Waitaki District Council would be welcomed back into the Southern Waters Partnership, and we did, so they will be quite pleased to hear that, I'm sure. The discussion represents the culmination of many hours of work and attending online meetings with Cheryl, phone calls, emails, driving to meetings, driving back, joining things online. A huge amount of effort put in by the team to make sure that Southern Waters is positioned as not just a high performing water entity, but as one that genuinely values partnership and ensures every community has a voice as we move into the next stage of water services delivery. So I'd like to thank my fellow mayors, Jock Martin, Ben Bell and Mel Tavendale, along with the Southern Waters team for the effort that has gone into reaching this point. Over recent weeks, I've also met with a number of agencies, including the Ministry of Social Development, Health NZ, and our local MPs to talk through some of the pressures facing our towns. This has included discussions around housing, workforce challenges, and the planned closure of the Cromwell chalets, which has raised understandable concern locally. Alongside this, I've just continued discussions with the Southern Lakes Health Trust and am very much looking forward to the outcome of the clinical services plan, which is hopefully imminent because it has been with the minister since Christmas. And I think that there might be something by the end of this month with any luck. We'll see how we go. This work is critically important for the long-term sustainability of health services in our region. There have also been a number of local government New Zealand meetings during this period, including Zoom sessions with ministers, as well as organising the upcoming Zone 5 and 6 conference in Christchurch and planning for the next Zone 6 meeting later in the year, which we are hoping to have hosted in Otago. In February, I attended the ORC-led community session in Roxburgh, which focused on flooding risk associated with the alluvial fans above the town. The meeting was very well attended, reflecting the level of concern and engagement in the community. And I look forward to continued collaboration between ourselves, ORC, DOC and affected landowners as we work out how to best manage and reduce this risk in a practical and coordinated way, stretching our combined money as far as possible. I'm also very pleased to share that we have some genuinely positive news. Our Mayor's Task Force for Jobs team, which consists of Craig and Nick, have done such an outstanding job that they have been awarded an additional tranche of funding to continue this mahi, which is connecting young local people with local employers. This additional funding comes with increased targets, which Craig has already begun making progress on. So that contract is a national contract awarded to MTFJ that's then separated out into the different councils that are a part of it, and each council had a target. Because Craig had already met his and some districts haven't met theirs, we're picking up a bit of extra, which actually benefits all of New Zealand because we need to reach the target as a nationwide contract as opposed to just us. So really great work by Craig. We've had a number of local and national media interest in what's happening here because it is such a wonderful place to be, and we've got lots of positive things happening in Central Otago. And over the next 12 months, we will have a number of complex and highly topical issues before council in our communities, including fast track applications with another one added today, potentially, naming of the Cromwell Hall, tree removals, simplifying local government and proposals to abolish regional councils, RMA reform, rates capping, ongoing regional deal negotiations. And just because we didn't have anything on our plate, it looks like we've just added in talking about minimum flows and possibly the most contentious catchment of our district. So thank you, team. Fortunately, none of us signed up thinking this would be an easy ride. While we won't always please everyone, it remains an enormous privilege to serve our community and to work through these challenges together. And finally, a very warm welcome to Andrew Dowling, who has officially joined us today. It is fantastic for our community to once again have a full complement of elected members. And I know Andrew is very excited and keen to get stuck in. And then there's some pictures of infrastructure and trees. And that is my report. Happy to move it. Tracy will second that for me. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, team. Governance report, page 389. Is there? We've got the Otago Museum report and then the council status updates. So if we, Tracy.
I've got one question just in relation to that last, the grant of the new lease for the netball centre. Was it meant to be 9th of April? I've got to sign it, or is it they got to sign it by the 9th of March? Just timing.
Well, they haven't signed.
No, I was just wondering if that was meant to be, signing on the 9th of April. Yeah, thanks. Just be a bit tough to get it and have to sign it on the first same day. I'm not sure what that date is, whether it's even relevant, but just. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Just note that while we are awaiting official feedback, that the lease of the Kyburn Reserve might be resolved this triennium, which would be outstanding, and that there seems to be some enthusiasm from the community to register a Kyburn Hall Incorporated Society and finalise a lease agreement with council. So that's only been there for several years.
Now they just have to do a constitution and ratify that at an AGM, so it'll still be 3 years away.
Hopefully not. Anything else? Got that note about the netball?
Yep.
Oh, right. So recommendation is that we receive the reports. Someone happy to move that? Thank you, Tracy. Seconded, thank you, Sarah. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Page 455, Community Board minutes. And there's an audit and risk minute as well. So
I'll move you take them as read.
thank you, Martin. And seconded, thank you, Tracy. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Date of the next meeting is the 29th of April, and we will be back then in Alexandra, which will be possibly not quite as scenic, but we might have a few less technical difficulties for Wayne. We've sent you a lot of challenges today, Wayne, so thank you very much for being so accommodating of moving around the district.
The adversity becomes opportunity, Wayne.
God, you're right. Right, on page 475, we outline the resolutions to exclude the public for the next part of the meeting. Can I have someone move those? Thank you, Cheryl and Curtis. All those in favour? Aye. Again, carried. We'll just take a moment while Wayne switches off the one and onto the other.
Copyright for you this one. Steals on your $5.